Hi, it's Marta, the business healer, and I'm here to share with you 4 things that happen when we finally break limiting patterns. What are the patterns where if you had 10%, 1%, half a percent of change, of liberation, what would be possible for you? Super curious to hear. The thing about this is when we tackle limiting beliefs and ancestral patterns and actually let them go, this creates profound ripple effects that affect not just us in our lives, but everything that we touch. We're all connected at some quantum level, so when we shift and change and break patterns inside ourselves, it has a huge impact on the people in the world around us. So the first result that happens, we start to break our limiting beliefs by rewriting our neural pathways. So this is called rewiring your brain. So when you are finally able to think different thoughts about what's possible for you, your brain starts to rewire itself to understand different things and to see different possibilities. So instead of your brain defaulting from the old pattern of I'm not worthy, or I'm the only one who can fix and solve this, or why do I always have to be the responsible one, or where will the money come from? When we start to interrupt those patterns at the core level, we start to experience different results in our lives because what we believe ends up becoming. So when we overwrite these, different things actually start to happen in our lives. So personal liberation is the first outcome of breaking patterns. Another example of personal liberation is that when we break patterns, we actually create space that we didn't see before. If you have a solid object, like a limiting belief, and you start to break it open, there is space. And in this space, new patterns and new energy and air is possible. So when we break that apart, we have new space where new patterns can land. So we're removing invisible barriers we may not even have seen there before. And this can be incredibly personally liberating. The third thing under personal liberation category is that we start actually living from a place of empowerment, really being in freedom in our choices and in our behaviors and in what we think and feel and say, and therefore what shows up for us. So instead of operating from fear in our career, relationships, money, creativity, we start to live from a place of empowerment. And I cannot overstate the importance of what happens when we're living from this place of freedom, empowerment. When you are in a space and you're coming with an empowered energy, you are visible from space. You are aligned, you are powerful. And generally, most people feel a degree of fear or insecurity, totally normal. But when you're actually entering a room from a place of empowerment, you show up differently and different things happen and people see you a different way. So this can be incredibly liberating when you start to operate from empowerment rather than those old limiting beliefs which really keep us small. The second huge result that happens when we start to break free from limiting patterns is that we break ancestral cycles. So when we experience trauma, when we have limiting beliefs in our family, these actually pass through generations. So if a great grandparent had a bunch of debt and lost everything, and then the grandparents had to then rebuild, or whatever the pattern was, often we see these cycles of excess and not enough and excess and not enough repeating through the family line. So when our ancestors' belief is money is the root of all evil, how is that going to translate into a more recent relative, maybe a parent's fear of taking risks? So all of these things are ancestral patterns, and they are passed on not just our DNA, but also our belief systems. So when we can break a limiting belief and pattern all across our ancestral line, it affects not just us and the past generations, but also the future. So often if you're a pattern breaker, many of my clients are pattern breakers. They don't want to live and be constrained by the same things that their ancestors and parents were. The things that just were the way that the family operated. Stress, trauma, guilt, shame, fears, like all of these things tend to get repeated until we have the empowerment, that opportunity to step back and say, hey, now I see this pattern. Is this something that's serving me? Is this something that is serving all of us? And if the answer is no, you have the power to break that pattern. That might sometimes feel a little scary, but when you break the pattern, you create that space. New energies and new patterns can take shape, and that means that your kids and their kids will no longer be living that pattern, which has been, for the most part, passed on unconsciously. Not with any sort of intention, but a lot of these patterns get passed unintentionally, unconsciously. So imagine what happens for your family when you are not passing on the same unconscious limitations, fears, and patterns. You kind of break the cycle, you break the transmission. The third thing that happens when we start to break limiting beliefs and patterns is that we create ripple effects on other people. So your transformation often gives other people the awareness and the courage to lean into their own transformation. It gives them permission to undergo their own transformation process. When they see you living something very different from what they grew up with, or what they thought was possible for them, or what had been normal for the family, you give them courage to lean into their own transformation. If you are seen setting boundaries, pursuing your dreams, not taking no for an answer in terms of what it is you desire to create, being unstoppable, being confident, being empowered, speaking your truth, it really impacts what people see as possible for them. A lot of us tend to do comparison mode, and the comparison mode is usually with the people who are out going and doing something with their lives, something that is noticeable, something that's inspiring. Now, at the same time, those who are not ready to go on a journey of transformation, when you stand up and you break a pattern and you transform, sometimes there will be those who find that very triggering and who will want to give you their opinions about all the reasons that you're making mistakes. That's another subject for another time. But when you actually live the transformation, you prove to others that change is real and it can happen. And when they see you living an unconstrained life, a life of purpose and possibility and satisfaction and meaning, and really being generous with where you are because of your transformation, you shape everything around you. So this can really dramatically shift relationships. It can also bring people closer to you. People who might not have felt like there was space to be real with you, or space to question you, or just a familiarity or sense that there's an invitation to say more than just surface level stuff or the niceties that we encounter in our daily lives when we're working through life, right? So others, again, may resist because your transformation is scary to them. It brings up where they are still stuck or where they're still limited, and maybe where they're not satisfied in their lives. So to see this bright, sparkly person out there shining so brightly, it can change the dynamics. But in every case, their reaction to you, if it is not positive, is because of what that has activated in them, that they are now aware they want to shift and change. It's up to them whether they want to actually pursue that. But ultimately, you're creating a lot more connections because you're living courageously. You're living out there as a transformed person. And the fourth thing that happens when we start to break limiting beliefs and patterns is we create collective impact. So we are all connected at some quantum level, and any person, therefore, who breaks free from limiting patterns starts to release all of us. This is the idea of as within, so without, as above, so below. When we shift things that are inside us, that were pain or fear or shame, and we are liberated from those patterns, we show up differently in spaces, and we in those spaces start to affect everybody. So this can actually create a collective consciousness shift. And there's so many things that are shifting right now, and there's a lot of shifting that is about fear. But when we start to own and disrupt those cycles of being small, being disempowered, and we step into our power, we show up differently, we inspire people, and we can create those collective consciousness shifts. Isn't that exciting? So that also means that over time, we're reshaping the way our society functions. We are reshaping cultural norms, what success looks like, what great relationships look like, how we teach each other, how we treat each other, how we parent, how we show up in family. And eventually we start to refuse to accept old limitations that maybe weren't obvious because they were implicit until we saw you living so courageously in your transformation. So wouldn't that be amazing? And it's happening. So I have one client who they had the courage to leave a codependent, really toxic relationship. And the family was super divided about this, but the person who was in that relationship had no idea. So when this person had the courage to leave that very toxic relationship, it actually freed the family from this past fear of confrontation. There was this fear of saying the thing in case others wouldn't like them. So when this person actually said, I'm going to be free of the situation at any cost, anything is better than this, the family actually saw that it's okay to be honest with your feelings. It's okay to have courage and to go against the grain, even if your decisions may not be super popular. And it gave them a basis for being much closer as a family. So that actually helped to release some stored trauma in the family related to another in-law situation where there was trauma and mistreatment. So I cannot overstate how amazingly powerful it is when we start to create these collective shifts. So I had another client who healed their relationship with money, really broke the limiting pattern of I can't get enough or there won't be enough. And this helped them shift business revenues and create new avenues of generosity. And because they became so successful, they were able to create wealth. And what did they do with that wealth is they started making community investments. They started helping people. They started being of service. They started to notice the good things that were happening and reward the people who stepped forward with solutions, or even the people who were doing the solutions all along. Now they had a champion, somebody in their corner, and somebody who really was helping them to not only create that change, but sustain it. So that created a whole shift in an entire community's relationship to abundance. And all it took was one person's transformation. So what's my point with all this? The idea is personal healing is never just personal. Personal is what we have control over, and it's where we can start a journey of transformation that has ripples way far beyond ourselves as individuals. And your own transformation is a gift to everyone you encounter in your life, in your work, in your purpose, in your business, and every generation that is to come after you. So that's a little food for thought today. Let me know if you resonate with any of these. So if you have any questions about what gifts your transformation could be to yourself, your family, and your community, I would love to hear them. Drop them in the comments below. And also drop a like if this resonates with you, or if you have any questions about personal healing, what could be possible for you. I'd love to connect in the comments. So thank you for being here. That's it for now. I appreciate you. We'll see you around.